Against all odds, Friday comes with an abundance of peace, hope, and rest. Maybe not the renewed hope initiative, but hope all the same. Good morning. Welcome to your perfect morning starter right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka, blessed always among my gentlemen. Hi, Jeffrey. Well done.
Thank you.
That was a marathon yesterday. Hello, Kano.
Good morning and welcome to the program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he's Jeffrey Uzowa. I'm Kano Kilu, and you can tell we're excited that Friday is here. I'm glad that the Gateway Games 2024 is over now, and yeah, Delta State won it.
As expected.
As expected, yeah. Congratulations to Delta State. But a lot to learn, a lot to leverage on, a lot to continue and, spark from what happened at the Gateway Games. And I really hope that we are able to get it right this time around. I wouldn't say I'm tired, but I don't want to hear all the "we have potential" talk again. I think it's just tokenism, something to make us feel good. There's a lot of potential. Okay, what's next? So if we're able to do that, we hope that the next one in Enugu, I believe, later this year, we'll be able to top that. And then subsequently, I'm told that a lot of states are now trying to host the games, because of the value chain, all of the surrounding values that come from it, infrastructure, business, and all of that. So congratulations to Omo State for hosting the Gateway Games 2024. Congratulations to Delta State and other states that participated, really, because for a lot of people, it's also a way to prepare for bigger competitions globally. So this Gateway Games is also like a stepping stone. So great to see, but I hope that we do better in the coming days.
Oh, well, not forgetting our conversation with the head of the Sports Commission. Congratulations again to Ogun State, not just for the success of the games, but also for attracting other championships to that state and the potential for tapping the business side of it, which is critical, more important. And, that's setting the trail for other states to follow to ensure that infrastructure is developed and sports is developed at the grassroots level. But beyond that, we see that, states of the Federation, particularly those states where the governors are marking 2 years, are celebrating, 2 years in office with the commissioning of infrastructure and recommitting themselves to development. But more importantly, we asked yesterday, are you experiencing, are you witnessing, are you benefiting from the dividends of democracy? And not just for governors or states where, they're marking their second year, but for those who are concluding they're in their second term in office, you should continue to ask those critical questions. We must get to the point where, democracy celebrations is not just a celebration, an anniversary, a festival of sorts for the elite, but also a commemoration of a celebration of democracy through, experiential dividends of democracy, of the people benefiting from it. So you must continue to ask those questions, and we're here to ask those questions on your behalf. And all through the week, even until the 12th of June, when Democracy Day actually will be celebrated, we will be asking those questions for you in different sectors of the economy and national life. Jeffrey.
Well, you said it all. At the end of the day, I just feel that the government did underestimate the social impact of the twin policies that shook up the polity and the economy, and the shocks we're still feeling today. And so they're left in a little limbo right now of saying, just wait, it's going to get better and all of this. So we're going to probe all of that in the coming days. I'm sure we started probing that already. There's a lot to do. The truth is that Nigerians are really going through hell and warm waters. Some of them have never seen this kind of situation before. I know businesses that are shut down, businesses that are struggling, businesses that are looking for another maybe venture to get into. Young people now going into trading, retail trading of FX or cryptocurrency. There's a lot of hustling in that sense going on around the economy. This is because of this twin policy. Whether or not the government thought through the social impact on the social cost of this is debatable. But the reality is the reality. We are seeing it, we're working with it, and something has to be done urgently, because whatever it is that this is important to achieve is also for people to be alive to achieve all of this. But at the end of the day, we're grateful, first of all, that Nigeria's democracy is unbroken for 26 years. That's something to celebrate. And let's also look at that as the other side of the half-full, half-empty situation. Guys?
Oh, yes. So we're continuing with the review, the midterm review, call it that, of President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope administration. How much of hope has been renewed? How much of hope does the average Nigerian have? He had said in his statement that he acknowledges the patience of Nigerians and he doesn't take it for granted. After that, what next? We'll find out on the show this morning.
And beyond, reviewing the achievements, progress or otherwise of the current administration, in the wake of the killing of the divisional police officer of Rano Division in Kano State, the State Police Command has now arrested 41 suspects in connection with the incident. We'll be speaking with the spokesman of the command as we look at options of securing justice for the slain DPO and prevent, of course, such a reoccurrence.
And that will not be all on the program. We have other segments as well to talk to you about personal safety and security, teaching kids emergency on how to safeguard and protect themselves. Remember, it was Children's Day just a few days ago, and we talked about the government and the entire world standing against bullying, but how can they protect and defend themselves is going to be part of our conversation on the program today.
Absolutely. So we'll take a moment. When we return, the front pages are up for you. Stay with us.
And from the front pages, we begin with this Nigerian newspaper. And, of course, what do you expect? President Tinubu speaking, giving a self-assessment, so to speak, of his stewardship in the last 2 years. And listen to this: Nigeria in better shape under Tinubu, but more needs to be done. And there are some riders beneath that one. Financial Times, UK's influential newspaper, says Nigeria's economy has dramatically stabilized under the current administration, even as it calls attention to cost of living crisis, food inflation, as well as banditry. Of course, this is not from the administration, as I said earlier. It is from Financial Times UK, and that's the big story on the front page of this Nigeria. Seems the international community is applauding the administration. Of course, don't forget that prior to this time, the World Bank had also given a few assessments in the Nigeria Development Update report. That's it for this Nigeria.
All right, let's go to the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian leads with Ohaneze. Others fault Tinubu's scorecard as APC blame past leaders. Ohaneze, others fault Tinubu's scorecard as APC blames past leaders. So that's on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. I'm not sure which of the past leaders the APC is blaming. I'm sure it's also the leadership of Muhammadu Buhari, which a lot of people have assessed to be the financial situation, the fiscal management under that administration was really nothing to write home about in that sense because of where things landed for the current administration. And the current administration, we can also tell you what else also they've done in terms of what we say is the social impact of the twin policy. Some have said it should have phased it. Some have said it should have thought through the social impact or social assessment, what do you call that, in social initiative program should have been thought through and properly put together, because for the records, the buffers that have been put in place is not sufficient to cushion the effect of some of the things Nigerians are going through. Just that Nigerians are very resilient people. They just find a way to survive. I don't think it's because the government is doing anything fantastic as to the impact of it. Although some macroeconomic numbers look good, like the excess crude account, the, what do you call it now, the debt service to revenue has improved in that sense. So there's a bit of liquidity in that sense to be able to do. But in the midst of all of that, we're still borrowing and digging deep. So it's just a convolution of conversation here and there. That's why we're saying that sometimes when we want to take recommendations of Bretton Woods institution, we should look at our own uniqueness, because Nigeria seems to defy all the numbers. I follow the numbers, and I know that the EU, for instance, and the US, when they target inflation numbers, they get to it, and you can see it. Even though things are tough, but basics, the infrastructure, the power, the roads, those are what we call legacies. When they are sorted, whatever infrastructure you put in, or whatever measure you put in place, can be felt. We are dealing with corruption. We're dealing with a terrible rule of law situation. When these things are not sorted, I guarantee the government and any other government, the basics are not sorted. Rule of law, corruption, legacy issues, there is nothing you can do about reform that will work. I guarantee you that.
A tough job to be done. Talking about the Financial Times piece, I think it was the editorial board that wrote a piece about Nigeria's economy, and then part of it was put on the front page. But hey, that's what it is. But let's turn our attention to Nigeria News Direct. The News Direct leads with an executive order which was signed by President Bola Tinubu. And you see on the front page of Nigeria News Direct, FG issues new executive order to attract new investments and lower costs in upstream sector. I know a lot of people, Jeffrey, had thought that the president would assent to the tax bills because, you know, they had adopted the harmonized version the day before and said it's been, that was done for onward presentation to the president. So a lot of people thought that that was going to be something to mark the second administration of President Bola Tinubu, because those tax bills have been a long time coming, and it's been said that, if those bills are to come through, then it might maybe ease business, reduce the tax burden on small businesses. Well, that is a projection. Okay, that's usually the projection, but when the chips are down, it's another case entirely. But what did we get? This landmark executive order, as it has been described, called Upstream Petroleum Operations Cost Efficiency Incentives Order 2025. It's a mouthful, but that's something that came up yesterday.
I feel that besides all this grammar, the first thing the government should do is a hydrocarbon framework. Experts are saying that we really, in all honesty, do not know how much oil comes out to the surface. They call it technical losses. Technical losses is a sexy way, permit my word, to say they are stealing the oil in a very, very funny way, in my view. So if we don't know how much of the oil, because if you go to the Saudi Aramcos of this world, both the government, this time Ministry of Petroleum, Ministry of Finance, and the operators, the NNPCL, everybody has a dashboard that they see what comes from the waters, whether it's onshore, deep offshore. They see what comes out. So you cannot come and tell me what you got. There's no guesswork. But here we do guesswork. Annualizing, 2003, I mentioned, 2023, we did 1.2, 1.3 last year. We're averaging 1.4. We're still far away. I hear the new man, NNPCL, is projecting 1.8. I would advise him, keep it around 1.6. Don't talk like a politician, because there's nothing right now that shows that is achievable. I'll be glad if it happens, because they've been saying this for like 2 years. It's not happening. So lower your ambition, keep it temperate. It's part of our budgeting process as well. We also saw that we were a bit too ambitious as well. So all of this political talk, we should temper it so that we don't work people up to have too much expectation. For me, if we do 1.6 at the end of the year, crude oil, not condensate. Crude oil, because that's what OPEC counts. Condensate is also good, but crude oil, if we do 1.6, 1.65, it's fine.
So don't overpromise and underdeliver.
Don't overpromise and underdeliver. It's too much. That's why we're borrowing, because we over budget and we need to go and borrow now.
There you go. So that's a look at the front pages, a lot to chew on. But we'll take a quick break now. When we return, Mr. Omoyele Sowore is our very first guest on the program as we review the midterm of President Bola Tinubu. Stay with us.
Welcome back. And as we start off this morning, of course, we're reviewing continually the administration's performance in the last 2 years. And it's only right, particularly after 2 years of reforms, tagged harsh but necessary economic reforms that have really thrown Nigerians, beneath the weight of high commodity prices, high petrol prices. But where are the gains, and how long will Nigerians have to wait for the gains of this inevitable economic reforms? Depending on which side you're on, those reforms are beginning to bring in some gains that will trickle down. So let's have this conversation this morning, and we have joining us from our Abuja studio the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, Mr. Omoyele Sowore, who joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Sowore. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
And of course, as we start off, it's inevitable that, of course, you have made your views known about the administration's 2 years in office. And we've read your post on X. They come with, very, what seems to be a harsh assessment. Of course, you'll tell us more about that. But some say that these reforms are inevitable. And if any other candidate, as we reflect on the outcome of the 2023 presidential election, had won, besides the All Progressives Congress, that these reforms too will have been executed. So some say they're necessary. How do you weigh in on this?
No, I want to correct the impression that if any other candidate won, the same would have happened. If I won the election in 2023, I wasn't going to remove fuel subsidy. I was going to remove subsidizing those who are stealing from the poor. I wasn't going to float the naira the way they floated it, and I said it on Channels TV, what we do to the economy, that what we need to do is to rejig and reawaken the Nigerian economy and have a monetary policy that focuses on production, manufacturing, and that eases the pain of the people. I talked about public work, so I wouldn't have done what they are doing now. Maybe the other candidates in other political parties would have done the same thing because they are not different from the ruling APC anyways. So that wasn't going to be the case if I had been elected as president in 2023. I just want to correct that first and foremost, yes.
So 2 years after, Mr. Sowore, what are your reflections?
On my way here, I almost turned back because I really don't think there's anything to evaluate. But because I'd already agreed to be on your show this morning, I said, I'm just going to come and be here to have an exchange of ideas, which is fantastic. But after 2 years in office, there is nothing to evaluate. As you referred to my tweet yesterday, I looked at the signature project of the Tinubu regime, which was the 700 kilometers highway known as the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. And in 2 years, they have only succeeded in completing 30 kilometers. That means if they have 8 years, they would only have done 120 kilometers of a highway that they claim will be completed within their tenure. So that tells you where we are. That, for me, is a symbolism of how terrible things have been. But if you look at the energy sector, you look at the security sector, look at where Nigeria is. Nigeria is almost overrun again by terrorists, bandits, kidnappers, all across the country. The security situation is scary. The time this regime came into office, Boko Haram was in Yobe and Borno. As of now, the biggest terrorist camps are close to Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, and there is one in Kogi, in Okunland, around Obaja now. So the terrorists are moving, very fast and quickly towards the Atlantic Ocean, as we've always heard. So there's nothing, in my view, that I can look at. We're talking about the economy. By the time they came, it was 460 naira to $1. Now it's about 1,600 naira to $1. If you compare that to wages and salaries, whatever it is they're earning, and workers are earning now, which is 70,000 naira for most of workers, is, in terms of value, is less than what they used to earn when it was 15,000 naira per month, when you look at the value of the Nigerian currency. So the only people who are making progress, I must admit, are those people in the executive branch. The president just bought himself a brand new jet. He has the best medical insurance in the world. He travels to France anytime he coughs. Governors of states are collecting 4 times what used to be their monthly allocation and squandering and embezzling it. The local government autonomy that they said was going to happen, after the Supreme Court made a decision on it, the president reversed it. And when you talk about all of this, you can imagine that it's still the same minority that is having the biggest take-home pay in Nigeria, while the rest of the country suffer. And we're not just saying this for the sake of opposing the regime. We're saying it because it's the truth. Nigerians and their large numbers are suffering. And before I came on the show, I also have listened to some of you saying, well, things are really bad. But things are worse than you can even express on air.
All right, Mr. Sowore, I want to read the statement of the president marking his second anniversary to you so that you would respond to part of the reasons why he had to make those, from his own end, they call it bold decision. Others are saying is not a sensitive decision. But let's hear what he had to say. So let me be clear. The only alternative to the reforms we initiated was a fiscal crisis. He listed runaway inflation, external debt default, crippling fuel shortages, a plunging naira, and an economy in a free fall. Despite the bump in the cost of living, we have made undeniable progress. Inflation has begun to ease, rice prices and other staples are declining. Oil and gas sector is recovering. Rig counts are up by over 400%, and over $8 billion in new investments have been committed. I would like you to respond to that part of the statement.
Those statements that the president read were actually written by him, or if he vetted those statements, because there's nothing in those statements that reflect the reality on the ground. The price of rice has not gone down. As I'm aware, of course, there might be markets where they rig these numbers, like they rig elections. I am not aware that the Nigerian economy is doing better, or that you have $8 billion in investments. Where are these investments coming into the country? And where is the inflation? Where has the inflation gone down? I don't understand when you are not making progress, you are claiming progress. This is just very deceitful. I'm not aware. We live in this country. I've been here now for 6 months, and before then I was around for 5 years. So there's nowhere in Nigeria that I've met anybody who can tell you that they are buying rice the same amount of money they were buying it 2 years ago. Nowhere. There's nobody you can meet who will tell you they are buying petrol, which is our own, energy staple, for the amount they were buying it. There's nobody who is exchanging the naira for 460 or 500. So these indices are what indicate if an economy is making progress. And the threat, which is implicit in this, is that the economy would have been a free fall. I don't know how an economy can be, can fall more freely than the Nigerian economy in the last 2 years, where everything practically collapsed, and the standard of living of the people are in tatters. So that's why I'm saying I honestly don't know who are writing all the speeches for them. But it's Nigeria, they live in alternate reality. I mean, those in power.
Right. So let's take a look at some of the achievements listed yet again. We may have seen some of the front pages yesterday. Over 300,000 beneficiaries of students' loan scheme. By the way, do you see that as an achievement, the student loan?
I don't see student loans as an achievement. I don't see anybody who is borrowing against a future in which there are not going to be jobs to repay back the loans as an achievement. I took loans before to go to school in the U.S., and I would never count it as it's one of the worst decisions I took in my life was to have gone to school, paying loans. We shouldn't be giving student loans to students who have no means of paying them back, who have no parents who have jobs, whose old parents who have retired have no pension. Those ones are only reasonable and, not in every circumstance anyway. In countries where the standard of living is high, the standard of living is high, and you are guaranteed of employment when you graduate. If you are not guaranteed of any form of employment, why are you taking loan, except you want to live perpetually in peonage?
Right.
That should not be the case. We should be giving grants to students to complete that. The people who are celebrating loans themselves did not take loans to go to school in this country. There's nobody my age who paid through their nose to go to school in Nigeria. So many of them, especially the guys who are running Nigeria now, who are from the southwestern part of the country, enjoyed free education. Why are they suddenly against providing the same level of education to their own people?
And there goes my next question, Mr. Sowore. You talked about what you will have done differently, and that's the point of this conversation, as you said. Share ideas, provide alternative policy ideas, just in case those in government are not seeing it. So at least it will be said that we presented those ideas. You talked about if you had come in, you'll have at least ensure that there were better monetary policies, right, to encourage manufacturing and all of that, and you would stop subsidizing those in power. So for the monetary policy, for example, we know that it's under the purview of the CBN, and there's usually the committee that votes, the MPC. They vote independently to decide what what's it called now, the interest rate would be. That's the MPR. So some will say that's not under the purview of a government. It's the CBN's MPC that makes that decision. That's on the one hand. When you talked about subsidizing, so in terms of budgeting, for example, you might say the National Assembly cut the budget of the cabinet, but then as a president, you can't unilaterally take these decisions, right? Because your budget will have to go to the National Assembly. They will look through it, in some cases make adjustments before they then pass it to become a law. So as a president, what you can do in that sense is limited. You have to rely on other arms of government and the structure. Take Elon Musk, for example. He came with a lot of ideas, with a lot of energy, but when he saw what government is like, he decided to step away. So how do you see yourself walking through all of those structures and systems that you have to work with to ensure some of your ideas come to life?
The president is the most important elected official in Nigeria is the president of the country. And it's the president of the country that prepare and send the budget to the National Assembly. So it is what you send to the National Assembly that the National Assembly looks at. I understand that there are other, issues involved in passing budget, but what you present, if it's real for the Nigerian people will rally around you. You mentioned the U.S. Whenever the president presents the budget and the National Assembly of the U.S., which is known as the U.S. Congress, decides not to pass the budget, there will be a situation where there might be a shutdown of government because the executive branch will say this is what we want for the people, and the legislative arm might say, well, we think differently, and then they enter into negotiation and they decide what is good for the people, and the people on the other side will be watching them and putting pressure on the people who should pass the budget. Just now you are mentioning the MPC, that's the central bank, who meet every quarter whenever they meet and decide on interest rates. You look at it, which is why Nigeria is a laughable situation. The idea of just sitting and increasing or reducing interest rates is based on one reason, that people actually save money. But in a country where only 7% of your populace has more than 500,000 naira in their bank accounts, it is useless to sit and be tinkling with interest rates. Interest rates were made to be central to economic decisions on monetary policies by Paul Volcker in 1980 in the U.S. under the Carter regime when the economy was falling apart. It was a 1980 idea, and that's why Nigeria hasn't made much progress in terms of the thinking that goes into our economic actions or monetary policies. Is that people are still using Paul Volcker's idea even after Paul Volcker has died, Carter has died. We are still thinking about monetary policies that are based on savings in a country where nobody is saving money. That is the basic idea behind the MPC sitting every time and thinking with, but you ask yourself, how is it that you go to a bank and borrow money to manufacture and then your interest rate is at 20-something%. How are you going to pay that back? Does that even make sense? The US we were talking about, where they brought the idea from, their interest rate is around 3-point-something%, the highest. It's only when you are dealing with credit card companies and when your credit scores are very low that you get to pay high interest rates. But over here, you increase the interest rates, nobody can borrow to manufacture anything, nobody can pay back those interest rates, and you keep talking about interest rates as a central decision for, you have all this bank of microphones in front of the central bank governor, it's just, speaking to nothing. Interest rates are not supposed to be central to economic development or monetary policies. Monetary policies are supposed to ginger economic development and growth. And any of these decisions that don't make that possible is not monetary policy. It's just press conferences of the MPC on a quarterly basis.
So, Mr. Sowore, let's look at other economic indicators now. And the World Bank itself had judged that Nigeria's GDP has recorded significant growth in the last 10 years, if you measure it. There's also the speech from President Tinubu's second anniversary saying that debt service to revenue has dropped significantly to 40%. That's just to mention a few out of the other economic indicators that even analysts are projecting to giving a sense of hope that the benefits may not be witnessed now by the man at the bottom of the ladder, as I always say, but will come in somewhere further down the line. Surely this gives a sense of hope about the strategy of the managers of the economy under this administration.
No, it doesn't, and this is very important. I'm here to analyze the outcome of economic policies and government decisions. I'm not here to count how many times the World Bank has said that the GDP is growing and nothing is happening. There was a time in this country they went and said that the Nigerian economy was the biggest in the world. The World Bank said it, the IMF said it, and nothing was true about it. But they were using it to prop up one of their candidates who was managing the Nigerian economy at that time to make it look like she's doing a good job. The truth is that you cannot say that an economy where you need over 100,000 megawatts of electricity is bigger than an economy, and you have only 7,000 operationally. And you are saying that an economy like South Africa that has 60,000 or 65,000 megawatts of electricity is smaller than Nigerian economy. It's all a lie. So they cook up all the stories. But what I want to tell you is that we are not new to the game. This is World Bank pushing their own economic agenda on Nigeria so that Nigeria can become the dumping ground for the products that they manufacture elsewhere, whereas the Nigerian people and the Nigerian government doesn't do what needs to be done. That is because they have allegiance to the World Bank and the IMF. Under the Structural Adjustment Program, they just changed the name of the Structural Adjustment Program, which they imposed on us, for so long now. So, and we do not have leaders who are capable of changing our, economic philosophy. In real sense of it. So you keep having the World Bank telling you that things are getting better, getting better, getting better. This has been the case since 1980. But look at the life of Nigerians over the period that we've been adopting this World Bank economic policy. Last week, the propaganda was that we had repaid back a loan of $4.3 billion. And then 2 days later, we are borrowing $21 billion from the same people to whom we just paid, and to whom we just paid off some loans. So you are wondering where's all this deception about our relationship with this Bretton Woods institution? It's because they want to control your life. They don't want to let you have a relationship. They don't want your economy to develop. So they keep lying to you that you are doing well, whereas look at what the Financial Times is doing, saying that Tinubu has made bold decisions that put Nigeria on the right path, which is not true. But these things are paid for. They lobby to get the Financial Times to endorse them because the people who really make money from Nigeria are people who invest in short-term, bonds abroad, and they take out their money as soon as they rig the interest rates, and it's good for them, and then we are the ones who have to pay back all these loans. That's where you see the final. Yes.
Yeah. So let's look at something critically. I like how you look at the picture, the way you're looking at it. So let's look at what could have been done differently. So they said they met an economy that may have tanked. So you see all of the high interest rate by the Monetary Policy Committee, the orthodoxy, as we call it in economics, where they just use it to taper inflation because they are liberalizing trade in that sense to create employment, as proffered by the Bretton Woods institutions, which sometimes we suspect intent, which you have talked about. But on one hand, when they raise interest rates, because interest rate is high, naturally we'll get good FPIs, foreign portfolio investment, but local manufacturing is dying. So I want you to look at it from the point of almost a tanking economy, and then the need for interest rate to be high with all the measures they put in place. Besides, I'm just focusing on interest rate that has attracted some of these foreign portfolio investments, but it's killing local industry. So there's a dilemma there. I want you to help us out with that dilemma. Another dilemma we've seen, but government sometimes, they're quite arrogant to admit that the way we budget is a bit funny, especially our assumption. And then we run into all of these deficits and try to cover up with maybe borrowings and all of that. How should we be budgeting differently? It's something people don't really talk about. Talk to us about it, sir.
Well, I actually was in Brazil in 2002 to attend the World Social Forum. And I found the Brazilian model, that was when Lula was around for the first time, to be exciting and, different and very, very creative. And every budgeting that they did in Brazil, particularly in the south where we were in Porto Alegre at that time, was done first at the community level. That is to say, before the budget is drawn at all, they go to the grassroots. They say, what do you need? As opposed to what do we need to give you? And then they'll tell them what they need. So we need schools in some places, we need bridges. And it is a community that will first and foremost cost what they need and what they want and what it will cost. And then they pass it at that level up to the top, first to the local government and the state, and operationally to the federal government. And then when the budget comes back, they will find out that the budgets are realistic and they are not padded, because the biggest problem with Nigerian budget is padding. The people who actually make the most amount of money, the corruption involved in budgeting have not been spoken about in Nigeria. There's a cabal that's involved, in the parliament and the executive sector in preparing budgets. They are the most powerful people, almost some of the most powerful people in this country. But we've never talked about them before. And these guys just make up budgets and then they send it to the National Assembly. It allows the National Assembly to negotiate their own cut of it. There are two ways the National Assembly is involved in padding budgets. One is that everybody that's presented a budget is supposed to appear before them. So you have to bribe them before you can even pass your budget. And this includes university vice chancellors. And the second aspect is that they then include what they call constituency projects. It is not the job of the National Assembly to be running constituency projects. They can suggest to the executive branch what they want to be done for their constituents, but it's not up to them to then become contractors who then implement these constituency projects. And that is why you have over ₦1 trillion padded into the Nigerian budget, and I can guarantee you that those constituency projects never get executed. So, to your question, mine would be a democratization of the budgeting system, where we go to the grassroots, ask people what they need at the grassroots levels, local governments, states already have, and then we come to the federal, and we put all this together with the executive branch budgeting office, and say this is what Nigerian people need for this year, and this is what it's going to cost. And we have an open and transparent process in which every dime we're spending is accounted for and can be seen by the people. If I'm building a bridge, I want people to know with a signboard in front of the bridge, the cost of the bridge, who is constructing it, what is the CAC number of that company, and where it is located. For everybody to see that transfer, there must also be one on the website that says this is how far we have gone This is where it is. And if there's any stoppage, we want the citizens to have an input into monitoring these projects for you. So that's how budgeting should be, and that's how the making of budgets should be, and that's my own proposal for it, that it should start from the grassroots. And this has worked very well for the Brazilian people, to the point that it was so great that Lula had to be returned to office because he did so well in those areas. So, and you cannot say today that the Brazilian economy is not a good economy, it's not a great one. But over here, the biggest problem we have is the opacity of our budgeting system. Let me tell you that just as we are here today, most state governments, you can't find their budget anywhere. In 2025, where we are all digital citizens, you can't find the budget of most state governments anywhere to assess how the budget was made and how they are implementing it. They hide it. It's some of the biggest, biggest top secrets in Nigeria.
And you know, that just says a lot, really. Just to refer to your previous statement, you have reignited that debate, the monetarism debate. Is it Paul Volcker who's responsible for monetary policy, or Milton Friedman? It's been said that it was Milton Friedman, monetarism. That's the Nobel Prize-winning economist who wrote about it extensively before Paul Volcker then used it as a Reserve Bank head to bring down inflation.
Well,
but that's just by
Paul Volcker was the one who used it. That's what I'm. That's why I mentioned Carter as well.
We should move this to the school where we can have a proper debate. But it's very interesting the way you brought it up, because it just brings to life.
I'm a teacher as well. Exactly. So I taught for 8 years in the U.S. 2 U.S. universities. So I understand.
That's brilliant. Very well. And it speaks to how we need to develop our own framework that really works for us. Because Milton Friedman sat down and looked at, the trends. He went as far back as 1867, looked at the trend and said, this was what was responsible and this is what we need to do. So other people naturally picked it up from there, and they were able to transform the American economy. So it's a very valid point you make. But, as we are speaking about the second anniversary of President Bola Tinubu, a lot of people are already looking to 2027, and they are ready to crown him president, or at least work for him to become president yet again from 2027 upwards. And I'm sure you've seen all the movements to the center. People are singing, their outfits are being made. It's just a lot of frenzy. You almost think that this was 2027 already, when we're just 2 years in to this administration. So, Mr. Sowore, it looks like he might get a second term if he's going to get this much support. Do you see anything stopping him from getting a second term, in spite of some of the failures that you've identified in this administration?
Well, it always feels like that with every, as a matter of fact, the frenzy you described, manufactured frenzy, to give the impression, they serve two purposes. One is to create distraction from the failures of the government in power. And there's no government who is into 2 years in power, or even the first year, who don't create some kind of manufactured frenzy around their performance, their preference, and the fact that they are popular. I remember when Yar'Adua was in power, and he had a head crisis. Everybody knew it. While he was in Saudi Arabia, almost brain dead, a group has set up here. It was led by one Polycarp, Umwite, I think, campaigning for him. They were already campaigning for his second term, even though the man was dying in hospital. So, there's a cottage industry around that as well. So there's nothing to worry about. What I'm very clear about is that the opportunity for Nigerians to look the other way, to change course and direction, is being presented by the Tinubu regime. Except we lose out, this is the best time, to change course, because they have presented to the Nigerian people over and over again that, look, we're here to do whatever we want with you. And it is up to the Nigerian people to say, look, we are tired of the abuses, and the subjugation and the decimation of our lives. We are tired of being in darkness. We are tired of being hungry. We are tired of being without sewage, without water. We are tired of an educational system that is messed up. We are tired of a healthcare system that is broken and is not going to be fixed. We are tired of lies and deception. So these guys have presented Nigerian people with clear alternative if they choose to. If they don't, then you can't blame them for getting a second time. But for me, based on their performance, there's no second time here. I don't see a second time. In fact, I do not see an end to a first time that will end well, because they have not started well.
So many, points that have been raised from some of the things that you have said so far. For instance, we could ask, how then do we define our relationship, with the Bretton Woods institution? What economic policy approach is best suited for Nigeria if the methods, adopted by the current administration is not working in your perspective? But we seem to focus a bit too much on the federal level, without paying attention to the states. And that's where I want you to weigh in on now. For the states, even regardless of those celebrating 2 years or those in their second term, which stand out for you in terms of management of their local economy, prioritizing human capital development, especially, to balance with what is often considered to be their priority, which is infrastructure development? Which states stand out for you in this regard, Mr. Sowore?
A Nigerian state can only stand out in terms of performance if you have never been to a country where things function. Then you look at any state and you just generously say, well, they are performing. That is if you have never been outside of the shores of Nigeria. You've never seen how local governments perform. I've seen a lot of the states claiming that, celebrating their 2 years and saying that they are performing wonder. But when you go to the states, there's nothing happening, except we don't, our standards are so low that we celebrate anything, even when there's nothing. So I have not seen a Nigerian state that can boast of 100 kilometers of highway. I've not seen a Nigerian state that can boast of schools that are of the best standards. I'm not talking about even international standards. I'm talking about local standards that we used to have in the 80s and even 90s. I haven't found a state that can boast of any good hospital. None. There's no state in Nigeria where if a state governor is sick, he can check into the hospital that he built. None. I've never met such a state. I've never met a state that pays salaries to workers that can take the workers home, or that can be said to be a living wage. So, except you don't know what states are supposed to do, or what states do in other places, then you can start, and be saying that, in the country of the blinds, in the country of the blind, the man with glaucoma is the best, So, and I'm not mocking people with glaucoma because it's not fault of their own. But I'm just saying that people who claim to be governors in our states, none of them has done anything, Maybe the only thing they do is to buy live stream from TV stations and just read out statistics that don't conform with what's on the ground. I saw one yesterday who was laboriously sweating, and showing all these car parks. And I mean, how do you celebrate car parks in 2025? People celebrate university, People go to Saudi Arabia and know what they are doing with oil resources. Go to Qatar, go to all these Gulf states, look at Caribbean countries, small countries that you don't even see on the map of the world. They are doing better than Nigeria. And then you have state governors who are buying 2 hours of live stream to read statistics of achievements that don't exist. I'm so sorry to say that I don't know how to rate states in Nigeria, considering that we live in the same country where nothing is happening. So it's much ado about nothing.
Well, Mr. Sowore, it's a gloomy picture that you paint, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with raising the bar of excellence. And we must bring you back to have a continuation of part 2 of that debate on how we should better manage the economy. We must thank you very much for your time on the program at this point. We've been talking with Mr. Omoyele Sowore, presidential candidate of the African Action Congress in 2023. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that's not all on the review of the performance of this administration. We'll be hearing from the spokesperson, one of the spokespersons of the administration, to try to put up a defense and explainer to what is actually happening. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, the special advisor to President Tinubu on economic affairs, Tope Fasua, is our guest on the program today. He's live in our Abuja studio. Welcome to the program, Dr. Fasua.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning.
Good morning. Quite an engaging conversation we had with Mr. Sowore, whom I imagine he must have said hello to on his way out. And aside the post that he put up, he said quite a number of things. Yes, the president's statement acknowledged, well, the suffering that the policies, the twin policies have brought on compatriots, as the statement put it. And he went on to say, or at least the people who wrote the speech, according to Mr. Sowore, went on to say, well, we do not take your patience for granted. If you had seen Mr. Showore's post, where he said that a man who took 2 years to construct only 30 kilometers of a highway on his signature 700 kilometer is a failure. A man who met the other exchange rate at 400 and pushed it to 1.6 is a failure. A man who ended the petrol subsidy for people with low incomes, but still subsidizes corrupt government officials and lawmakers in the name of budget padding is a failure. A man who met Boko Haram in Borno State and Yobe, but let them move down south to Kogi is a failure. What do you have to say to that, Mr. Fasua?
Well, you know, my friend Sowore, he has his own perspectives about things, indeed. And what he has done, perhaps, is to probably have a laundry list of the downsides of some of the weaknesses of the policies that are going on, and then he amplified it. So you can focus on that, or you can also focus on the fact that a few things are working and that we've actually taken the right steps. Mr. President has taken the right steps by taking on those reforms. And like I keep repeating, those reforms are fundamental towards building a much better economy. And I think that the worst is over. I think the brunt has been borne. Most of the brunt has been borne, and Nigerians should look forward to easier life going forward. Minding the fact that, you know, there's suffering everywhere in the world, the cost of living crisis is a reality everywhere in the world, inflation of food and all of that. However, of course, every country has to deal with its own kettle of fish. The two twin reforms, for example, he spoke about the Naira. Of course, what happened was, of course, people were making about 75% arbitrage on the Naira versus the dollar. When Mr. President came, buying money at 450 in the central bank, offloading at 800 Naira in the open market. Today, many times the open market rate is even lower than the official rate, which is sometimes astonishing. But that happens because of the ease with which you can do transactions outside. That happens because of the ease with which you can do transactions outside the banking sector with our friends on the street. You know, so that's it. But Mr. President had to do that. Say, look, let's walk away from this and know exactly how much money this country. Of course, that led to the weakening of the Naira. But you can see that weakening of the Naira, the benefits of that showing up in the books of our states and local government, whose revenues have tripled, most of them, whether it was their internal revenue or the allocations they get from federal government, have tripled so far. You know, in 2024 alone, our states paid down 32% of their debt, of their global debt. One state paid down 97% of the debt it owed anybody in the world, whether a foreign currency or local currency, meaning that balance sheets are looking fantastic now, and that if for those of them who are very forward-thinking, they will see that they can do a whole lot more with their balance sheet. They can borrow more money. They can do more projects, and which will impact the people. I heard Sowore speaking about that no states can boast of 100 kilometers of road. Well, it depends on the states. You know, states like Lagos are doing incredibly well. The new axis in Lekki, Lekki to up to Dangote. I once went there. It was 98 kilometers from VI to Dangote and Dangote refinery, and the road is all good.
All good. I'm not sure we ran into any potholes there, and so on. So now is the time that we can actually benchmark many of our states and say, what can you do? Because they are not only getting a lot more money, their balance sheets are also freed up, are looking good. Nigeria has a better Fitch rating. Interest rates on our borrowings will then drop. We're able to pay IMF loans and get out of that entirely, and so on. I think, of course, there's a time to build, and there's a time to reap, there's a time to sow. There's a time to celebrate. There's a time to make sacrifices, and there's a time to say that, you know what, we can now take things a bit easy. Mr. President understands that we can't start taking things easy as of May 29, 2023, and that's about the crude. That's about the naira. But the reforms around the petroleum subsidy removal also was very, very important and apposite at the time it was taken, because, you know, here we were, you know, talking about petroleum subsidy taking between 4 and 7 trillion naira every year. And many of those monies went into pockets of people that didn't do anything. They just showed up and they cashed out. A couple of them were jailed in the last few days. You know, I mean, that's a case that's been on since 2011, 2012. Of course, the judicial process is slow, but that's what it is. You know? So Mr. President said, you know what, we can't continue just dumping all the proceeds of crude oil in the Atlantic Ocean. We need to do something about that, and of course, he said on the day that was sworn in that was gone. You know, and today Nigerians can see the liquidity. So I think that there's been a lot of focus on federal government. The truth is that the federal government is in charge of paying salaries of less than 100,000 civil servants and about 2 million public servants, including people who work in the army, the navy, the police, and so on. That's the remit of the federal government. Everything else is the remit of the states and the Ministry of Federal Capital.
All right, Mr. Fasua,
that's the way Nigeria is structured. Mr. President has done the right thing to give more power, to give more liquidity to the states and local government, to push local government autonomy, which, again, is part of what Sowore was saying just now. The point is that the real governance, as it affects the people, as it touches the people, is at the level of states and the local government. And Mr. President is an advocate of local government autonomy. Even the new tax bill that has now been harmonized by the National Assembly.
Kindly permit me to come in here, Mr. Fasua, just for a moment. My apologies. If you can hear me.
The federal government is reducing its
if you can hear me, Mr. Fasua.
VAT from 15% to... Oh, I think someone is speaking, but I can't hear you. I'm just speaking on.
Not a problem. Can you hear me now, sir? Mr. Fasua, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Great points you've raised. Great points you've raised. And a few things that I don't think are debatable, we can acknowledge, is to the fact that the external reserve have done better, at least even the net, if you don't even look at the gross. Debt service to revenue has significantly come down to a manageable level where we have freed up funds. FAC allocation, we can see in Naira terms, has particularly increased tremendously. So we can look at all of this and maybe other achievements of the federal government under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu. Now, but there's something I have thought through, and I want you to give us a very honest response. Coincidentally, you're an economist, so you understand this technically. So, whatever we do, look at any economy in the world, any economy, whether it's a monarchy, whether it's a democracy, whatever form of government that is making progress, whether it's China, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, there are a few things that are in place. Else, no matter what we do with the orthodoxy from the monetary policy authorities and the liberalization of trade from the fiscal authorities such that we try to taper inflation in consonance with the monetary authority so that we can create employment and build this economy the way it should be for Nigerians and the people of the country. Production and productivity. What is going on there? Because until we start producing aggressively, I doubt we're going to go anywhere at the end of the day. What we look at as a trade balance in that sense, for me, is about devaluation and what it trickled down because it changes pattern of consumption ordinarily. On the other hand is aggressive anti-corruption. So go to any economy that is working, monarchy, communism, and all of that. Their own version of anti-corruption has to be rock solid. Rule of law. no matter what this president does, Mr. Fasua, put me on record. If these things are not sorted, no matter these bold reforms, I can tell you in 15 years, nothing will change. So is the government looking in that direction?
Well, so you mentioned productivity, you mentioned rule of law, anti-corruption. I think anti-corruption and rule of law, they go together somehow, you know.
Decide to separate them for a reason.
The whole idea, yes, the whole idea is to say that the laws of the country are against corruption, the laws being enforced. Well, that's in the realm of the law enforcement. And of course, the thing I know about corruption is that every country is working towards zero corruption. There's none that can actually come up and say they are free of corruption. Anyway, it's a process. It's not a destination. It's a journey. It's not a destination. No country can say they've got to that point. I mean, the people will always try to get a leg up on the next person, and that's corruption. And indeed, you know, I think that even in terms of corruption, we need to start to get real. What we are not having in Nigeria is that we're not having our own data sovereignty. I mean, if you went to the US and you have to pay a tip, in fact, sometimes they will take the tip from your money, whether you wanted to pay them or not. In the US, it's recorded as tips. In Nigeria, it's recorded as corruption if you gave somebody a tip. And that's counted against us. I thought about this just yesterday to say the way data is captured and the things that are regarded. And that's why Nigeria has all of this. And of course, poverty is there. We see all those things like policemen taking money on the road from people, which is very, you know, it riles us. And of course, there's the high-level corruption of people who we are seeing. Maybe, for example, we know what happened in CBN and the thing about 750-something houses and so on, which actually is a major issue. But however, I believe that, you know, these things will go down gradually. I also think that government alone cannot do that. I think that the press, the media, the social media, the CSOs that are also in this space, everything you're saying and all your efforts also count towards reducing it. The social media, the fact that people can take a video of a corrupt politician, a corrupt policeman, and upload it and embarrass that person and get them out of office is also part of it. Eventually, where that is going is a scenario where the average Nigerian understands the value of living simple and the value of modesty and modest living. For now, because there's a cultural aspect of our society that expects that people should be loud and should, you know, it's in our music, it's in our churches, in our religious houses, we want to blow, God has said we're going to be big and so on. Just a few weeks ago, I was in Lagos in a party and I had to call someone in the statistician general office to say, listen, do we have a statistics of how much our people spend on parties on a weekly basis? It would be probably in the hundreds of billions if we actually did that. Now, if that's not happening anywhere in the world and it's happening in Nigeria, we're wasting money and wasting food constantly like that because we want to quote-unquote celebrate ourselves, we're going to have a problem. You know, gravitating towards the Qatars and the Dubais and all of that you mentioned. But I think what's more important is the productivity and that you mentioned. Now, you mentioned productivity, you know, and you know, it kind of ties to, you mentioned value addition now this value addition is one of the mandates of Mr. President that he has spoken about. Just 2 years ago, in 2023, Nigeria, according to tradingeconomics.com, we made about $800 billion from cocoa. 2024, we made $2.8 billion. From 800 million to 2.8. In fact, from the numbers I saw, I was shocked myself, but we're talking about at least 200%, about 250% increase from one year to the other because of value addition and more production and more productivity. Because again, a lot of people left, according to an article in Business Day, a number of people left their jobs as bankers, as engineers, moved to the cocoa farms and, you know, their old cocoa farms, and, you know, a lot of productivity happened in that area. And of course, there's been a lot of value addition as well. So Mr. President wants to promote companies, industries in this country to do a lot better. And that's what we're seeing. And of course, about 2 Federal Executive Council meetings ago, a resolution was made to buy Nigeria, resolution to say that not only should we buy Nigeria, government money must be directed at buying made in Nigeria first and foremost. Nigerians must also be encouraged to buy more of made in Nigeria, you know, and of course the local contractors must be prioritized over foreign ones. except we can't find a local contractor, should we go and get a foreign one so that we can use our own money to reboot our own economy? And that's how they do it in the U.S. and everywhere. You know, the U.S. taxpayers' money will never go to a foreign company except they can't find a local U.S. company to do it. So this is something that has been on even before Donald Trump. It's been like that, in spite of America's claim to capitalism and liberalism and what have you. And that's where Nigeria has got to today. And I think that this is a way of using our own money to reboot our own economy and also increase productivity. The last thing I'll say is this: number one, that Nigerians, when we talk about productivity, let's first of all look inward about how productive we are. If people say, look, they want soft work, they don't want to do anything hard, they want to sit in their houses and make their millions of naira and millions of dollars, which we can spend, then that means that you're not thinking about, you know, actually putting in the grind, you know. Of course, it doesn't have to be hard work to be productive, but be sure that you're doing something that's moving the agenda. If all you're doing is sitting down just criticizing, I'm not sure how productive that is. Create something. And Nigeria, you know, whether you're in the fashion space or the beauty space or in the advert space, whatever it is, make sure you're doing something. It's down to you. You know, the world economy has changed. Artificial intelligence is here now. You're redefining a lot of things for us. Secondly, and lastly, whatever money you make, the tendency for most Nigerians is to send their money abroad. Either you want to jump out of the country because you don't understand that the grass only looks greener on the other side. This is where it's at. This is where the opportunities are. You want to go and buy a building in London that after a while you will realize that the council taxes and the service charges are killing you and they have to take the houses from you. Let's use our money to build our country, and that is when we'll get the value addition and the productivity that you speak about.
All right. Whether it's value addition or productivity, there are other factors, you know, that make it easy for the gains to make it easy or difficult for the gains, you know, to trickle down to the professionals in that space. But that's not where I'm headed, Dr. Fasua. Perhaps the most important yardstick for which the administration is being measured is inflationary pressures, which has really eroded the purchasing power parity in the country. You refer to the cost of living crisis being global, but there are some countries, some experts will say that that is not a very strong excuse, because there are some countries of the world where you go to year in, year out, and the prices of commodities are stable, so referring to it as being global may not necessarily reflect the truth. So the question would be, Dr. Fasua, how soon will the macroeconomic indicators that are being celebrated under this administration trickle down to the average Nigerian, such that they can begin to enjoy the gains of the reforms?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, my statement about a global crisis on cost of living is valid. In the UK, in the US, in all of Europe, when inflation got to 11%, they're not used to that. They're used to inflation at 2%. Max 3%, but they got to 11% a couple of years back before tapering down, and it was 50 years high of inflation for them. They had inflation that they never had since the ending of Second World War. Of course, that's actually part of the problem from COVID, and of course we are suffering a longer tail, what they call longer tail in statistics, you know, a longer effect compared to these countries that are very experienced and have all the shock absorbers, you know, and the buffers to be able to bring down inflation much quicker. Right now, our inflation is at 23.71. You know, the projection that it'll go lower, the World Bank projects 22% average, okay, for this year, meaning that our projection to take inflation down to 15% by December of this year is very likely to hold, so that you can average it out from the January to December and say, okay, maybe at 22%, but if we are likely going to get to 15% by the end of the, or even a bit better, maybe 14 or 13%, it's on the way down. You're asking about the trickle down. Of course, we hear the prices of rice, and I go to the market myself. You know, they call me, you know, motor park economics. I'm happy to be that. You know, so I go to the market myself. Price of rice now going to 55,000 naira. And you know, we also started to get complaints from the other side saying, oh, we are farmers, or we are traders, we want to keep it high. I saw a post on social media where one guy was saying to people, go and hoard all the rice paddy. Let us hoard it. When we hoard it, after a while, the prices will go up. And we are all Nigerians. Well, you call that, if they call that market forces, I don't know. But there's a thin line between market forces and being a savage and trying to ruin your people. The people of this country are also the ones that are traders are the ones that increase their prices up to the point where we had inflation at 34.8%. Before the rebasing to 24%, it spiked a bit and it's way down now. With food being the key driver of our inflation and food prices like rice and coal trending down, which is one of our major staples in this country, chances are that inflation will now continue to taper down and people will begin to get the benefit of it. I was in Calabar, Cross River State, just last week, and there was a program by, you know, which involved some pensioners and civil servants and so on. And I was shocked that for the first time I heard civil servants and pensioners saying that, oh, Mr. Governor, thank you very much. In fact, Mr. Governor wasn't even there. He couldn't make it for one reason or the other. But that for the first time, they're getting their benefits as and when due. Pensioners said some of their arrears, a lot of their arrears have been paid, have now been paid, because of the policy of Mr. President that has released a lot of liquidity to these state governments, that not only are they able to meet their immediate obligation, they have also paid down their debts and freed up their balance sheet for transaction. I think that we should be looking at an explosion of infrastructure, you know, local infrastructure in all the states. And I think that we also should encourage our state governments, and perhaps your show should bring us some of the state governments to come and tell of the projects that they have in mind. And a few of them have actually started doing some of these major projects. Of course, people will then say, is it infrastructure we eat? Again, it's an unending thing. It's the cost you carry when you come to government that you probably will never be able to satisfy anybody. If you do one, they want the other, they want the other, they want the other. But the point is to continue to do what is right. First of all, we cannot spend all the money just paying people's salaries, but we have been pushing from federal government that the minimum wage should be effective, and every state should pay the minimum wage, and I think most of them are complying now, the 75,000 minimum wage and the consequential adjustment. Yes.
Paul, it seems like sometimes the connection issues, because of the time we have left. Great point you've raised, and we try to bring them, and we'll continue to bring the sub-nationals. It's just that the policy of the federal government is what affects everybody. And I don't think we should be celebrating people paying people salaries and pensions. I think this is 2025. That should not even be a conversation in any shape or form. I'm sure you agree with me on that. But I wanted to find out from you. When are we going to have the National Living Standards Survey report?
No, I don't agree with you.
No, Mr. Fasua, you may not agree with me. That's the position. We cannot be celebrating paying salaries and pension as an achievement in 2025. It shouldn't even be an achievement.
I did not mention celebration. I'm talking about moving away from a trajectory of 15 years. For 15 years, these people suffered, right? And we're saying that now we're having a different trajectory, going in a different direction. I did not mention celebration. You mentioned celebration. I just mentioned it as a matter of fact.
I'm saying
and
that
I think
in your
it is
comments
worthy
around
because
what
people are
happened
getting their dues,
just
because that's where it matters.
Just a moment. In your comments around how there is liquidity in the system for the sub-nationals in Naira terms, for them to meet up their obligations and clear up liabilities in that sense, you did mention the fact that the civil servants in Cross River that you went to, part of what you mentioned was issue around salaries and all of that. I'm saying that should not even be a conversation in 2025. Maybe you didn't use the word celebrate. I'm saying it's not a conversation. You must pay people their wage because they work for it. If they've served, they must be paid their pension. That's what I'm saying. But my question is, National Living Standards Survey report, when are we going to have it, or is it out and we're not aware of it?
Well, that's back to the Statistician General at the MBS. you know, we try to maintain an arm's length between government and the NBS, the National Bureau for Statistics. So I believe that they're working on that. Anytime imminently they will release that. Equally, they have worked on the GDP rebasing, which has been overdue for about almost six years now. By the end of this year, it'll be 6 years overdue. Because the last one was 2014, so by the time we're crossing over to 2026, that'll be 12 years on. I think that worries me more, that we should have our new GDP numbers and know exactly where we stand and be able to configure, you know, the development, even from the formal sector that has happened in this economy. For example, the real estate sector. Imagine the stock of real estate that has come on in this country in the last 10 years. A lot of that informal, even if you're able to capture the GDP from the very corporate ones, you know, the skyscrapers coming up in Lekki, in VI, all over Lagos there, even in Abuja here, in some other parts of Nigeria, Port Harcourt, even Bayelsa and all of those places. If you're able to capture the GDP, what you can't capture are those houses that people build in the remote places in Ogun State, in Niger State here, in different places all over the country, houses that people build for 5 million, 10 million just to manage a place. They don't even take authority from government before they build. They just continue to build every day 20 blocks, 30 blocks, but it's money they are spending. And they will live in those places. At least some of them live there forever. And so that is also part of it. And that's how most of our people find places to live. So not only that sector, the agri sector, I mentioned what happened with cocoa recently and so on. And of course, commodities continue to do well, from sesame to cashew and cashew nuts. Fantastic. You know, so the thing is this, I'm just here to say that, please, okay? It's easy to say and dismiss some of the achievements of government, to say, what is it, you know, it's just normal, we shouldn't be talking about that. At least let's talk about the fundamentals. Let's pay people their wages. Let's also get people to get involved in the real sector of the economy. When they get involved in the real sector of the economy, it's not everybody that will prosper, but however, let's push as many people towards where the productivity is going on, where the jobs are available. There are industries in this country today that are looking for workers. They just can't hold on to the workers they have. And so this country has a lot of space for development and for growth. And I think I look at the future very positively for Nigeria. I encourage everybody to get involved.
Well, I think that's the very best approach, positivity. But that's not to say we'll not speak to the issues so that we can at least troubleshoot them, see what the government is doing. If the government is not doing the best, at least we can put the government's feet to the fire. And the president had said it when he came into power. Don't pity me. Right, so if you want to provide alternative ideas, absolutely, let's have it. And here goes the next question, and that's to challenge between the statistics you put out, or the challenge of the statistics you put out, and what the average Nigerian is feeling. And I mentioned earlier the president's statement acknowledging that pain. I recall when he was in Lagos, when his convoy was driving through, and you could hear the traders saying, "Ebing power" in Yoruba, which means we are hungry in English. So that is how a lot of people feel. So we can look at all of the statistics, but there is a lag, a major lag between the statistics in that sense and people feeling some of the statistics you reeled out. And I, remember speaking to Ortega yesterday, reminding him what the president said, "Shena statistics, we go chop." So maybe we can use this moment to provide some sort of clarity as to timing. When you say that the major brunt has been borne, for how long, what period are you giving people that, okay, you know what, we've done this 2 years now, you felt the pain. In the next 6 months, you know what, in the next 3 months, you're going to start feeling the positive impact. When you say renewed hope, I want you to renew the hope of the people, but let's put a timeline to it.
I think that, thank you, a great question, Kay. And I think that already Nigerians have started to see this benefit one way or the other, and they're going to see a lot more. I mentioned the Buy Nigeria, Patronize Nigerian contractors, and I'm saying this for a purpose, to encourage those small and medium-scale enterprises, the nano, micro, to get involved. If the government says, let's patronize local contractors, you know, you have to put a leg in the door. You have to ensure that you're getting involved and you are hustling a little bit harder, because this is your country and those contracts are meant to come to you so that you can grow as well. You know, so that's, and again, I qualify that to say that when you make your money, don't filter the money abroad. Look, the big countries of the world, they've actually calibrated themselves to absorb any amount of money you are bringing from Africa. They'll take it from you. And the day they would even you know, deny you having access to that property or that money of yours, they will do it unapologetically. Nothing will happen. And you realize that you've just been played, you know. So that's that. So already we're seeing that. Kay, I mentioned that the price of rice is going down and the price of many other staples, including vegetable oil and all of that, you know, those are gains that dovetail directly. I mentioned the fact that, you know, that now there's liquidity for the states. They're getting times three. And that's
totally
where the action is. That's where everybody lives in a local government.
You are not answering my question.
Local government autonomy, and
I appreciate that you want to lay the background. Pardon me, Dr. Fasua. I appreciate that you want to lay the background. But because of time, and because my question is also related to time, if you can get me, my question is specific. You know, when you set a goal, goals are meant to be smart. So they are specific, measurable, all of that. Time-bound. What is the timing you're giving Nigerians? You've gone through this pain for 2 years. In the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, in the next 2 years, you're going to start feeling the positives. Give us a timeline if you can, Mr. Fasua.
Kayode Otitoju, I'm selling to you that already is going on. I'm not. You are projecting into 3 years, 3 months. You know, they've already started, the Nigerians have already started to enjoy, given the things that I've said. We don't have to say, we can only say that in 3 months and in 6 months' time, they are going to get a lot more of this. Anyway, my own position and my advice, and from the job that I do, is to say to government that now is the time for us to focus fully on the benefits of exactly as it dovetails to Nigeria. People have even said that, look, the policies have made corporate organizations richer. We see companies from banking to telecoms to manufacturing declaring major profits this year. Even the ones that made losses 2 years ago have been able to come back into profit. People are saying, yeah, that's what we want to see. Well, I would have thought that if telecoms and banking and manufacturing and all of these big companies are making good money and declaring, then that will mean that they are paying their staff more. The problem we also have is that those who are actually benefiting already are not speaking up. But you can't blame them. Anybody that's doing well does not also want people to bring attention to themselves. But I'm saying that, okay, the benefits are already trickling in. Inflation is going down already, and that should count for us. But if you want the future, well, I can't see the future, but I think that given the efforts of government and the reforms in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year, I can only see the graph going up this way as per the benefits for Nigeria, that it will continue to go up. But however, we live in a technology age. We also will ensure that we project those achievements and ensure that the man at the grassroots gets the benefit, including those who need cash transfers. We should be done better, because it's not everybody that can even work. Every country notices that not everybody will be able to work. They need cash handouts from government, and that's being done using BVN, using NIN to ensure that those people get the money directly.
We have to thank you so much. Of course, Nigerians are listening, so if they're enjoying it, they're going to give us feedback. But it's great to have this conversation with you, get a sense of what government is doing, the thinking of government. Dr. Tope Fasua is a special advisor to President Tinubu on economic affairs. Thank you so much for your time, and certainly wish you the very best. We'll take a quick break now. Yes, a lot to still talk about, certainly. But we'll take a breather. When we return, there's more for you on the program. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's talk to the Police Public Relations Officer of Kano State Command, Abdullahi Kiyawa. Joins us virtually. Mr. Kiyawa, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So for the benefit of those who are not familiar with this story, we are familiar with the story as to what happened. Maybe you can do a quick recap as to what played out What has been done so far? We understand a few people were arrested because of the killing of a police DPO in Kano State.
Thank you. Good morning. In Kano, the incident that happened early this week is a sad one because in the state we have a practical community policing where we usually engage members of the public in all the policing activities in the state. There was arrest that was made in Rano by the divisional police officer of one Abdullahi Musa for disturbance of public peace. There was a lot of complaints in the local government area of killings, causing hurts as a result of reckless and dangerous driving in Rano local government area. As a result, all the stakeholders came on board, including the Emir of Rano, the Rano local government chairman, as well as the head of security agencies in the local government. And they resolved that those actions should not be left to continue like that. They now in place adequate measures to ensure that whoever come out in name of disturbing public peace by means of motorcycles, riding recklessly, be handed over to the security agencies. Unfortunately, this person was arrested, and on that day, he was sick. He was rushed to the hospital by the DPO, and later in the morning, on Monday, 26th, he was certified dead. In the spirit of community policing, and in the spirit of working together with the community, the then late DPO now contacted the relatives of the deceased. And when he engaged them, they now told him that, okay, no problem, let us take the corpse to the family resident. When he went there, some irate youths started to stone the vehicle, the patrol vehicle, and that is how the DPO left. Unfortunately, again, some youth that happens to be the friends of the person that died now mobilize youth in the state, especially thugs, and so many people with criminal records. They then went to the divisional police office in Rano and attacked the division, setting ablaze vehicles, destroying vehicles, and also setting part of the station ablaze, which the attack led to the brutal killing of the divisional police officer Rano, CSP Babali. As a result, immediately the commissioner of police from the metropolis moved to the local government area, and the victim was then rushed to Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital for further treatment, where in the afternoon hours of the death, he was certified dead. However, as a result of this, the command now commenced a thorough investigation, which I view to investigate all the happenings around the death of the teenager, as well as the brutal killing of the divisional police officer. So far, based on the investigation, 41 suspects were arrested, including 8 arrowheads that led to the mobilization and direct attack on the DPO, certified by eyewitnesses, as well as the various disturbing videos of the brutal killing of the DPO. The arrowheads were identified, and 8 of them that spearhead all the attacks are part of the 41 total suspects arrested for this culpable homicide, arson, as well as mischief. Currently, investigation into this case is ongoing, and all the suspects involved will be charged to court accordingly.
Really sad incident, and our hearts go out to the families of the deceased in this case. But you know, some more details have been emerging following that incident, and I'd like you to confirm or otherwise some of these details. Is it true that the late DPO had a case in 2020 when he was in Bauchi Command, and the Federal High Court sitting in Bauchi awarded 210 million in damages against the Nigeria police as compensation for the torture that resulted in the deaths of 2 individuals and left a third with life-threatening injuries. Is that true?
As alleged, that case did not happen in Kano. And what we are investigating here is all what transpired in Rano local government area here in Kano State. But however, going by records here at the commerce level, even at the local government level, the DPO has good relationship with the members of the community. Some of the videos going, you can see how he was engaging them, especially during the just last protest in Kano. He successfully, professionally engaged members of Rano. We were very surprised in Kano. We have never witnessed this type of attack on security agencies in Kano because our policing approach. We base the policing in Kano, which is based on community-centric. The State Commissioner of Police, CP Ibrahim Adamu Bakori PhD, has already established a robust synergy among security agencies in the state, as well as members of the public. So this attack and this incident in Rano came to the command as a surprise.
I understand.
Because we have
I understand, spokesperson. I'm asking, okay, can you confirm, was there at some point in the Bauchi State Command?
I said that incident, as you allege, do not happen in Kano.
No, I'm asking that was the late DPO at some point in Bauchi State? Was it at some point in Bauchi State?
From what I told you, what we are investigating is what has transpired in Kano, not in Bauchi. Because that one do not happen in Kano, and I have to speak only based on what we are investigating here in Kano with regard to this case.
Well, the question bothered more on the specificity of the case that the late DPO had. But beyond that, besides this attack on the late DPO, just a day ago, there were reports that 11 suspects were arrested in connection with thuggery in Kano State. I want you to confirm that. Besides that as well, in March, the Eid Durbar activities were suspended due to concerns of insecurity in Kano. So the question is, does Kano State have a problem with thuggery on its hands, and is the State Police Command challenged to handle it in an enduring manner?
Kano State has 44 local government areas, and these local governments are divided into 3 sets. Within the metropolis, we have 8 local government areas. Within the bordering our neighboring states of Jigawa, Bauchi, Katsina, and Kaduna, we have 17 local government areas. Whereas in between, we have a total of 19 local government areas. This issue of thuggery, Daba, is only being pronounced in some part of Kano. Not even all the 8 local government areas, but at least 3 local government areas. And the command has been working to ensure that this issue has been brought to book. 11 suspects were arrested after these Daba boys came out to fight themselves between some youth of Sheka and youth of Medili. When we had the reports, immediately the State Commissioner of Police mobilized the command's tactical team to the area, and immediately this arrest was made. 11 were arrested, and they were arrested with these knives, cutlasses, and sticks. They have been all charged to court for prosecution for disturbing the public peace and for being in possession of these weapons.
All right, Piero, thank you so much for coming on the program. We'll keep following up to find out exactly how things eventually play out. We must thank you for coming. Abdullahi Kiyawa is a Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Police Command in Kano State.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk security, but this time we're talking about security tips on how to protect yourself, especially for kids. You know, we celebrated Children's Day, so all of the tips will be listed for them with our security consultant right here on the program. Join us again.
All right, security tips for children at home during the holidays or when they are left at home without parents or supervision is very, very key. So let's talk about it, and perhaps we can learn 1 or 2 things. And joining us is Mr. Ademola Adetuberu, the Chief Executive Officer, Barricade Executive Protection Limited. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Adetuberu, good to see you again. Oh, sorry, he joins us virtually. Yeah, joins us virtually from Lagos. Mr. Aide, you know, this is a very important subject that is often overlooked. But how can we ensure the safety of children when parents are not at home, when they have to be left at home for one reason or the other?
Okay, thank you so much. So how do we ensure safety at home when parents are not at home, or even when they are at home? So the first thing we have to do is, this is a very important topic that every parent should take they should not take it lightly. It's something they should pay serious attention to, considering what is even going on in our country at the moment. So safety at home is very, very important. So the first thing we would want them to do is parents should teach children how to recognize danger. We have to teach children how to recognize danger. Danger is by maybe a stranger by the door, or a stranger looking around the compound or their premises. It could also be danger when they see smoke. What should they do? It also could be when they see fire. What should they do? So that's the first thing that parents must teach their children, their words, how to recognize danger. Then after danger, after being taught that particular one, then the next thing is how to respond to danger. How to respond to danger. Yes, and how do they respond to danger? That's when emergency contact self that is having emergency. What should the child do? So the first thing the child should do at that point is they have to have armed them with emergency contact. Emergency contact 112, you know, or call a friend, call a family, call an adult. So that is important. If it is fire, what should they do as well? And the parents, even they are at home, the same thing. Get the attention of the adult, of the parents, or the ward, or the guardian, you know, that is at home. The next thing after the first thing is recognizing danger. The second thing is responding to danger. The third thing is also teaching the children the safe places at home, where they can take shelter, where they can take cover. God forbid there are burglars that had come to the house. We need to teach the children safe places where the children can go and hide. Or if it is fire, where is the muster point at home where they can as well go to, you know, for head count to be taken, and for us to be sure that they are they are safe, they're in a safe place. And after that, so we've said first thing, recognizing danger, second thing, responding to danger, third thing, safe places or safe exits or muster point where they are to go to. The fourth thing is also online safety, because you know what what internet has done to everyone. You don't need to be anywhere, right in your home, right?
Yeah, just land on that thought.
Okay, right in your home, there's internet connectivity, right? So we also need to teach them online safety. Online safety, how not to, if you don't know that we're in the 21st century and the entire world is connected, right? And unfortunately, fraudsters, the bad guys, they are making use of online, you know, to reach out to kids. I got a child, and fortunately, thank God, the stranger was the parent. The parent just tried to, you know, put a check on the child, and was chatting with the child, telling the child to come to a particular space, and the child actually went there, because the child had not been taught online safety. So we also have to let them know that they should not respond to strangers, especially if you don't know them.
All right. Safety in the premises, safety at home, and safety online. We're going to bring you back to talk more about that. Safety, it just occurred to me also, with electronic appliances when they're at home. But we must thank you very much at this point for talking to us. We've been talking with Mr. Ademola Adetuberu, security consultant, and of course, our regular when it comes to security concerns. Thank you so much for your time on the program. And there's more to come. The last leg of the program will be featuring, of course, on the colorful world of art. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
So let's talk with Ayodeji Awoyomi. He joins us virtually on the program this morning. And I'm tempted to drag you into, you know, envisioning Nigeria as an art. You're an award-winning fine art photographer. You're capturing timeless stories through art. So when you imagine Nigeria, what comes to mind? I just want to dive into your mind right now. Is there a picture that comes to mind?
Good morning, and thanks for having me. When I look at Nigeria, I see absolutely nothing but arts, absolutely nothing but grace and opportunity. Haven't been lived almost all my life in Nigeria before moving abroad and doing what I do. It's a beautiful thing for me to be able to put where I come from in Nigeria on a map, which happens to be Ekiti State, and basically I rep Ekiti State, and being able to be out here, do what I do, and have people appreciate it, and resonating with the Nigerians, with the powerful people in the world of art, like the late Fela Anikulapo Kuti and Nike Art Gallery. I've seen the beauty of what Nigerian culture and what the essence is all about. It's a good feeling, and to be honest, it's a good day to be a Nigerian.
I love that, and we should cut this part out and just put it out there. It's a good day to feel Nigerian, but there's something very creative about your work. Just looking at it, it's not just photography, it's also art. How does that work, really? Fine art, photography? Please walk me through that.
So basically, my journey through photography has been quite very tricky. I had my first camera at the age of 7. That was what my dad gifted to me, his old camera. It has been an hobby for me, and I was more into, when I was back in Nigeria, I was more into documentary and portrait photography. But I've always had this affinity for exhibitions, for fine art, just to be able to sit down and create something that people would look at, and you can actually say, oh, this is something that bless your thoughts, that can be thought-provoking. You can sit at different angles and imagine what the image is speaking to you about. So for me, I enjoy working with light and shadows because it defines the image. It is not just image. It's a story. It's a timeless story. When you look at great artists like Picasso, when you look at people like Da Vinci, and you look at people who created the pieces out there, it's a message to communicate their inner beauty to the world. And I want my story, I want my piece, and I want where I come from to be a timeless story to come in hundreds and hundreds of years.
Amazing. And I must congratulate you, because I know last year, first Nigerian to clinch that prestigious International Prince Photographer of the Year award organized by the British Institute of Professional Photographers. So let me say congratulations yet again. I know the future is bright, and I really hope that you get to the very top. Even beyond where you're at right now. We just wanted to take a moment to celebrate Nigerians doing great stuff, both here and abroad. We've been speaking with Ayodeji Awoyomi. Don't worry, this is not the end of a conversation. We'll probably crash your studio one of these days and have like a real conversation. Thank you for making Nigeria proud. We appreciate your time on the program.
Thank you. And even at the minute, I've got one of my art pieces being exhibited openly at the Birmingham City Council, and being part of the top 10 artists to be selected. We've got only 2 Africans among the exhibitors, which I happen to be the only Nigerian, and my other counterpart is from Cameroon. Hopefully we make the final cut, and then our art piece goes to the Buckingham Palace to be unveiled by the king himself. We're just looking forward, fingers crossed.
Hey, 200 million Nigerians are behind you, praying, fasting, supporting you. So we'll have you back on the show. Wish you the very best, my brother.
Thank you very much.
There you have it. Nigerians always doing great stuff.
5 minutes is inadequate, to celebrate the Nigerian who has won the International Prince Photographers Award. We'll definitely bring him back. Thank you so much for being there on this Friday edition of the program. And through the week, we'll be back again next week. I'm Bukola Koka.
And I'm Jeffrey Ozama. Bye-bye.
I'm Kayode Okikele.